So it's been a while since I've done a video and a lot has happened. I am an activist that has been working for the last 14 years to report a wireless and high-tech transnational crime organization that also engages in domestic and international terrorism to law enforcement on the federal, state, and local levels. For 14 years, law enforcement on the federal, state, and local levels have refused to hear me. They have ignored me. They have concealed these crimes. These crimes involve a group of anonymous men and women who are utilizing some type of wireless energy, wireless power, directed energy. It could be radio wave, radio frequency, but what is known is they are using some form of energy that is stealth that allows these persons to transmit into homes, businesses, both private and government, allows them to transmit while a person is mobile or even in mid-flight, allowing these anonymous criminals to engage in voyeurism, allowing them to watch people live, unsuspecting persons as they are going throughout their day. This technology also enables the criminals to eavesdrop, to actually transmit their sound, establishing wireless communication when its members elect to. And they also can engage in wireless aggravated physical and sexual assault of the body, of the brain, and of course, of the sexual organs. This network of criminals includes criminals that are from several different groups, from hackers to white supremacists to international terrorists to street criminals to persons who are looking for money and were hired on this network, to pedophiles, to drug traffickers, to BDSM hardcore persons who enjoy watching people suffer, as well as several other types of organized crime groups. This wireless and high-tech crime has secretly been going on in the United States and abroad. Recently, beginning in 2015, government persons, particularly the CIA, diplomats, their spouses, and children, began initiating reports stating that they were attacked by some type of wireless energy while in several countries. The initial report from the United States federal employees were made in Havana, Cuba. So they have elected to dub wireless and energy-based attacks Havana Syndrome. Just to kind of give you the rundown of what's happened since that time. In about 2021, Senators Collins, Shanine, and Rubio initiated legislation which provided those federal employees who sustained injuries with a legal remedy and financial assistance for the injuries that they sustained. If you have not been watching, they have been broadcasting on all of the news channels, nearly all of them, news outlets, sharing the stories of the government persons that were attacked, their children, and of course, their spouses. I have read over a number of those reports. Apparently, it appears that initially, government suspected a foreign government to be responsible for using wireless and stealth energy to assault federal employees and their families in various locations. Since that time, they have done a lot of research and have come to the conclusion that whoever is engaging in this crime is a small criminal group. How do I know that, right? How do I know that that's just not something that they're saying? Well, I shared with you that I'm an activist, but I also am very familiar with the wireless and energy-based crimes that government persons are victims of. I began reporting to law enforcement in 2008, all the way until 2022, that a wireless and high-tech criminal network was engaging in crimes against poor minority and poor white children in their homes. That this network of criminals, though they were anonymous and wireless, they had adopted the use of wireless technologies, and with it, they were actually exploiting babies under the age of 1 through the age of 17, using technology to transmit inside of these children's homes, selling access to these children on a hidden and very exclusive black market network where persons log on and they pay to play. They pay to utilize wireless energy-based technologies to penetrate, fondle, brand, beat, and literally wirelessly torture babies. In addition to that, this network has been running an exploitation ring of young girls, of men, and women of all ages, where they sell shows. On the dark web, they refer to this particular criminal niche, this disgusting niche, as a red room, where people pay to play. Live broadcasts are basically streamed, where persons are given secret access. They log on and they pay in cryptocurrency or whatever means in order to normally instruct the captor that is holding the victim hostage. But this network is doing something very different. They have access to wireless and stealth technologies. And with them, they do not have to and do not often remove their child and adult victims from their environment. Instead, what they do is they transmit inside of their homes. They penetrate, brand, beat, harass, terrorize, violate unsuspecting, sometimes unknowing and knowing persons wirelessly. The individuals on this network actually can see inside of every home, every business, all over the United States entirely wirelessly. They also can transmit inside of every home. They have established a racketeering business where they are selling access to their victims for reoccurring abuses. There's another component to this crime. There are different groups that have been operating on this wireless network. Some of them are interested in children, some are interested in trafficking narcotics, some are hackers, some are interested in hardcore activities and want to hurt and harm and in some cases kill children. Some are involved in race crimes. They go after specific races, minorities, poor whites, Hispanics, Asians, whatever their interest is, for conspiracies, for predation, in some cases for murder. There are persons that are involved in white-collar crimes. They are carrying out crimes that involve extortion and blackmail, that are more financially geared, as well as racketeering. This crime network of different groups has persons that are located in the United States, but also they have divisions that are located in several countries. When I found out about this crime network in 2008, it would be the first time that I ever recognized that I was a Black woman, and it would be the first time that I ever recognized what that meant. Up until that time, I did not see race. I did not see color. I actually thought I was a senior at the University of Houston working on my bachelor's degree to go into the field of social work. I sought to get a job, work with children and families, help my family, help my community, do the service work, live and enjoy my life. But I would never get that chance. When I reported this crime to law enforcement, I initially reported that my computer was hacked. That was my initial encounter with this wireless crime network. Members of it hacked my computer and they threatened my life and told me to move from my home. WordPad popped up, Notepad popped up, and they typed words, okay? I am very familiar with hacking because in my youth, because I date interracially, I met a lot of guys that were into computers, and I got into computers and hacking and things like that at the age of 12, 13, that kind of thing. So when they hacked my computer, I was well aware of what was occurring because when you're in those communities in your youth, you discuss information, you share different techniques, you share different practices. You actually practice sometimes infiltrating each other's computers and, doing all types of little things. But it's as kids, you're doing this for fun, the love of information. As adults, these people are doing these types of things for crimes. When the hackers hacked my computer, they said that my ex-husband, then husband, who was a white military man, was going from the real to the fake and he was getting it engraved. It was a very cryptic message that I didn't really understand. I contacted my ex-husband, of course, who seemed to find it relatively funny and was so curious about what the hacker said, but denying knowing anything about what was going on. I believed him like an idiot. What I didn't know is that hacking of my computer was linked to a more serious crime. Either way, I contacted law enforcement. The hackers went on to tell me that if I reported their crime, they would ruin my life and they would ruin the lives of my family members. I had hundreds of pictures on my computer of my ex-husband and I. They blacked out every photo that I had of his face. I didn't understand what was going on. My ex-husband said he didn't know anything about it. I was a little freaked out, but more so, I was offended. I was offended that someone would tell me to move from my home. I contacted law enforcement and I reported the crime. I expected that law enforcement would do what they are supposed to do. I didn't call law enforcement frequently. I think it was one of two times I'd ever contacted law enforcement in my entire life. I called them and reported the crime, and when the officer came out, he said to me, "Why don't you just move from your home?" I was like, okay, why should I have to move? I don't understand. The hackers continued to access my computer. Several more times, they deleted the papers I needed to turn in for graduation. They were tampering with my internet, my ability to connect to the internet. They were leaving cryptic messages. Its members actually, in their threats, they said to me that we control law enforcement and government, that we're the New World Order, and they use the handle Defying God. They stated to me that if I reported their crime, not only were they going to ruin my life, but the lives of my family members, but they would have me cowering in a corner. I thought I knew hackers, but it didn't matter. I reported the crime expecting that law enforcement would do what they were supposed to do, but that is not what happened. I was not yet aware that members of the largest and most dangerous and predatory transnational crime network had accessed my computer, and that these criminals were not just involved in hacking, that its members were actually involved in using some type of wireless energy, wireless power, radio waves, and that not only could they access my computer, but they could access and were accessing my cell phone. They could affect the battery on my vehicle. They could unlock my car doors, that they could hijack the radio, that they could access my camera, even though they didn't need to, that these persons had technology that even allowed them to turn the lights on and off in my home or in any home or building or any street for that matter. This was a very sophisticated crime. I was forced to contact law enforcement multiple times because what do? Your computer is hacked. You don't know what's going on. You report the crime. I would go on to contact law enforcement 2 additional times, separate occasions. Law enforcement officers that came out said the same line: why don't you just move? By the 3rd time, I was really freaked out, okay? I was terrified. It felt like I was living in some type of a sci-fi movie, which was the intention of the criminals. The criminals that I did not yet know were utilizing wireless energy technology, were violating me, watching me. And these persons had big plans for me. They had big plans to harm me. Now, what happened next is pretty bizarre. But before I go into that, I want you to know, for the last 14 years, I have been trying to get law enforcement to look into this wireless and high-tech crime, and law enforcement has refused to assist me. They've covered it up in the city of Houston. Even when I provided them with photographic evidence, I've spoken at City Hall. I've contacted lieutenants, captains, chiefs, sergeants. I've written letters and emails. I have videos of conversations with officers. I have spoken at functions where, several hundred law enforcement officers were sitting on the front row. I have pleaded for law enforcement to help me, explaining that I had done nothing wrong, that a crime network was violating me, and that in addition to violating me, they were violating other women. They were violating children, that they were carrying out conspiracies, violating innocent people, setting them up before they initiated overt crimes, during and after, so that they could misrepresent and characterize persons in a negative light, giving this criminal network the time to set up, to harm, to abuse, to disable, and in some cases, to kill people who did not deserve to die, and in others, to send them to prison. Law enforcement treated me like I was absolutely nothing, and they have continued to do so. Now, I know a lot of people, have different experiences with law enforcement, but up until this happened, I held law enforcement in the highest regard, okay? I believe that any human being that puts their life on the line in service of others, in service of their country, is definitely a respectable person, and they deserve what's due. I've never been one of those people that fall into the hype where, people say this and that about law enforcement, just like they're good cops, they're bad cops. But I have come in contact with over 100 law enforcement officers over the last 14 years, and not one of them would help me. Some of them refused to help me because my ex-husband was white and I was black. Some refused to help me because they said the crime did not exist. Some refused to help me because they expressed that they were afraid. Some refused to help me because this network had convinced them that I had done something wrong, that I was a criminal, that I was a potential threat, that I had done something bad to my ex-husband, and as a result, they refused to help me. I cannot capture with words the life that I've been living. I may seem like I am just a normal person, but I am anything but that. I have spent the last 14 years with members of an international crime network selling access to my body and to my life, to torture, to terrorize, to abuse me as I go through my day. I have literally been fighting for my life and for my freedom, like most victims. This crime is still going on. The crime that was once hidden and said by law enforcement in the city of Houston not to exist is now a crime that federal agents and their families and their children and their spouses are now familiar with. There have been a number of reports from government persons overseas and now in the United States who state that they were attacked and in some cases injured by wireless energy, some type of stealth energy that assaulted them, that injured them, and in some cases resulted in many of those agents retiring, some sustaining long-term injuries. Now, as it stands today, federal agencies are acknowledging and investigating crimes against federal persons who work in federal government, their families, their children, yet they are not acknowledging citizens, regular citizens, some citizens who are no longer here because the wireless crime network that I am actively working to get addressed murdered them, either through causing cancer, through a vehicular accident, through a random act of violence its members set up, through driving the person to suicide, causing a blood clot, which resulted in death, or some other tragedy. I am one of many victims, and I have literally been hiding while fighting all by myself, while a terrorist network throws everything that they have at me to silence me, to oppress me, to isolate me, to discredit me, to devalue me and my report of their very serious crime. A crime happens, you go to law enforcement, but not this crime. I went to law enforcement, and instead of law enforcement officers simply doing their job, they instead concealed the crime. They misrepresented me as insane. They harmed me. They targeted me for arrest and stops. They refused to address my complaints, and in some cases, tried to detain me. And in others, actually assaulted me, simply because I refused to keep quiet about a crime network that I knew needed to be addressed by law enforcement. My life has been ruined. My career has been ruined. I have spent 14 years running from a group of criminals I can't escape because they are wireless. Currently, I am working on a book about this wireless and high-tech crime. And in my book, I am talking about this crime in the way that it should. This isn't a crime that involves solely federal persons or is being carried out against federal persons specifically because of their job function. This crime network is involved in major crimes inside and outside of the United States. They are carrying out race crimes. They are involved in conspiracies to murder, scams, schemes, organized crime, drug trafficking, abductions. They have been behind several mass shootings, forced suicides, causing cancer, utilizing high-tech technology as a biological weapon. They have been involved in corruption. They have been involved in assassinations. They have been involved in going after poor minorities specifically and poor whites, okay? And I'm not just saying this, and actually violating children. And then after they violate them, they subject them to abuses and external circumstances that impact the lives of their former child sex abuse victims, that result in those former child sex abuse victims sustaining injuries that lead them to places like prison, drugs, for women, the sex industry. This network has been violating our homes and our children, and everybody is acting like this crime does not matter. You have no idea what I have witnessed over the last 14 years. It pains me to say this, right? But I'm gonna say it. When law enforcement refused to assist me, and several hundred to over 1,000 men and women who operate on this network terrorized me 24 hours a day for the first 7 years. They subjected me to concurrent, aggravated physical and sexual assault. As I went through my day, from the time I opened my eyes when they allowed me to sleep to the time they allowed me to go to bed. And their intention was to kill. Now, you don't know what I have been through, but what you should know is that these criminals, the horrors that they forced me to live through, the things that they did to me, the way that they made me live, the circumstances they imposed on me were not warranted. I did not deserve those things. I do not deserve those things. These individuals on this network were not planning to subject me to aggravated physical and sexual assault. They were planning to kill me in 2008. In 2008, while I was planning to graduate from the University of Houston and excited about going out into the work field, finally having my degree after years of working and pushing myself and not letting any of the things that happened stop me. While I planned for my future, this network was planning to end my life in 2008. The guy that I married, he was a scammer. This guy, and I'm not just saying that as some jaded, bitter ex. This is serious. This network put a lot of time, a lot of thought, a lot of manpower to do what they did to me. They wanted to make sure that when they ended my life, that it would look like I was just some crazy black woman that killed herself, and no one would ask questions. I had a family. I had things I was working on. I wasn't just, a person that didn't give a care. I literally had spent my entire life being a good human being, organically. The guy that I was married to knew about the wireless crime when I did not. This guy was sent to establish a relationship with me. He pretended to like everything I liked, to be interested in me. They even set it up so that we had the same, similar birthday. My birthday is 9/11. His birthday is 12/11. When I met him, I was very religious and spiritual, so I thought it was a gift from God. That was no gift from God. It was a scheme set up and designed so that it met my idea of what I thought God was doing in my life. This network exploited my religious beliefs. They set me up with this guy. This guy emotionally abused me the entire time we were together. He said, "Don't work," after we got married. I didn't work. I was working 25 hours because my ex-husband told me not to. But he didn't tell me that because we were getting the extra $2,000. He told me that because he wanted me to stay at home, to be isolated, to help this wireless crime network who was planning to murder me. I just didn't know it, but he did. 2 months shy of me graduating is when they hacked my computer. Someone on this network accessed my computer. My ex-husband acted oblivious. This wireless crime network set me up with my ex-husband because he was white and in the military, but also as a proactive maneuver. They were planning on murdering me, and they needed to set it up so that law enforcement wouldn't have an interest in me when I was killed. This network designed a conspiracy to murder me so solid and so tight that they crossed all of their X's and dotted all of their O's. Who would look into the death of a young Black woman, because I was young at that time, with a documented history of anxiety, or what I thought was anxiety, but was really this wireless crime network secretly violating me, making me feel and think I had anxiety at that time. Now I have anxiety. But in addition to that, who would look into the crime, especially when a white military male was there to state that this woman had a history of, quote, mental health problems? This network planned to drive me to end my life in 2008. When they had someone hack my computer, I believe that in some ways, whoever did that, the group on this network who did that, may have been an adversary or someone who did that to kind of tip me off. But these are criminals. They're all criminals with an invested interest of engaging in wireless and high-tech crimes. So on another side of the coin, maybe they did that so that I could contact law enforcement, because they already knew they were going to get law enforcement to document that I was mentally ill, even though I was not. And that essentially when they killed me and made it look like a suicide, on record, it would appear like I had ended my own life. And here were numerous reports from credible law enforcement officers prior to that stating that this person was mentally ill. It was a cover-up, a crime that had I not made reports and had some mystery group that operates on this wireless and high-tech criminal network not intervened, I would have been dead. My ex-husband would have had over $100,000 in life insurance money. We had insurance on the home because I kept, my stuff together. So essentially, he would have had a home free and clear because in the event of a death, the house would have been paid off. So my ex-husband disappeared when I didn't die. Okay, he just stopped talking to me, but he kept sending me emails confessing his love. Now,